You obviously know her from Once and The Wolf of Wall Street and How I Met Your Mother and now A to Z. So come on out, Cristin.
I'm so sorry. That took me a very long time to get here.
All right, so we have audience questions that I'll be sprinkling in while we talk. But okay, so we've seen you everywhere, on stage, on TV, and movies. How did you get your start in this crazy business?
Like how did I, like professionally or like how did I get into it? Oh, I was at NYU and I was really unhappy there. I was in their undergrad program. And I did this like crazy experimental play in this black box theater, and this agent saw me and started sending me out on random stuff. And I booked my first job through her, but by then I'd already decided to drop out because I was really, really unhappy there and didn't know what to do. And it sort of like was kismet that it came in, and I booked this job, and then I was very lucky, and it just sort of like kept going and going and going. I don't know. I wish it was more interesting.
As a kid, was it something you always knew that you wanted to do?
No.
What did you think you would do?
I thought I was gonna be a veterinarian, and then they found out that then you have to put animals to sleep, and so I was out. I wanted to play. I actually played soccer competitively all growing up, and I thought that that's what I would like go to college for. And then, when I was 12. And then I was made fun of a lot in middle school, and the only kids that were nice to me were the theater kids, and that's sort of what got me into it. I had done a play once before when I was 5. I don't have kids, but my mom, I guess when you have kids, you're like, let's see what they like when they're little, and my mom was like, try this, try this, try this, and one of them was a play, and I thought it was the worst experience. I was so bored. I didn't like that you had to do the same thing. I also was in a toilet seat protector commercial on a local tri-state area one, and I hated it because it took all day, and I didn't like what I had to wear, and I didn't like that they kept coming at my face with like brushes, and I didn't think the snacks were good. So it took away. It basically, I don't think I knew that I wanted to do it until I was like well into high school, and I think at that point I just liked it because I thought it was a lot of fun, and I didn't really like. That it was like something that I would do. It was like an extracurricular activity that was a lot of fun. But I don't think I really got serious about it until I dropped out of college.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've done stage, film, TV. Is there a medium that you prefer or could pick as your favorite if you had to?
It depends on the day.
Yeah.
I don't know. I love TV and film because you get to do something different every day, and you get to give it so many different tries, and you can really, theater, you really get to give it a lot of tries too, but it's the same thing. But there's nothing like having that live audience. There's that rush that you can't quite get. But what I like about film is that it's quite intimate, and you sort of feel like you can get lost in just a conversation and not be aware of anything there. Whereas theater, that happens sometimes, but like for the most part, you're pretty aware that there's an audience because you can hear them and like see them. Right. So that's kind of hard to tune out.
And how does the process differ when you're prepping for a role versus when you're on stage and when you're doing like your new show?
Well, how does the process differ? I mean, TV is so interesting because we shoot like 15 hours a day, and we're constantly getting new lines. So that took me a while. Like I would memorize the whole script, and then I would show up, and they'd be like, "Oh, just so you know, we rewrote the whole script." And I'd be like, okay." So then, no matter what, you're in the trailer, like sort of frantically memorizing lines. I tend to think that theater, and maybe I'll review these words, sort of like separates the men from the boys a little bit. Like that is the most exhausting thing you can do. And when you see someone, you have no life, you're doing that 8 shows a week, and it's just it's the most fun and the most exhausting. I think at least on A to Z and like How I Met Your Mother and Wolf, like they feed you and you can sit down, and they like dress you and they do your makeup. Like there's none of that in theater, and it's just theater takes all of you. The film and TV is like little spurts of energy, and theater is just like you have to be at 1,000% the entire time. I think from the minute you walk into the building, and that's much harder.
Well, that's a perfect segue into an audience member question who asked if you'll be heading back to stage anytime soon.
I just got off the phone about this where they were like, you're not allowed to talk about that. And I was like, oh. Are you sure? I'm trying to get back into something with the John Tiffany, who directed Once, who I love. We're trying to get a project up off the ground next year that would be a revival of a musical that I don't think is done as darkly as it should be. So we're trying, but we're it's tough because we don't know what's happening with A to Z, and he's like all over the world. He's in Australia right now, and like, so I'm desperately trying to get back. Is the answer? Yeah.
Right. Well, something I always wonder about theater actors: do you have any intermission rituals? Anything you do that do you stay in character? Are you?
I don't stay in. No, I think I usually eat. I eat really weird things because you can't if you're singing, you can't eat certain things, and you can't eat anything that's going to give you heartburn. But you only have, or from eating too fast, someone's going to steal from you because you only have 15 minutes. So I would eat these almond butter balls. They're disgusting, but they would do it. And they would get the trick done, and then I would usually ice whatever was hurting. I have all these pictures of me and Ann Nathan, who played my mom. And it's us on the couch in my dressing room with ice packs all over our body, and just laying there for 15 minutes. And then they're like, all right, places. And you're like, oh. And you get up and you take all the ice packs off. That was basically it. It was so exciting. Yeah, because for once it was the only break.
Right.
Because we're all up there.
Right.
Sitting on stools. Yeah.
So who are the people that you looked to when you were growing up, your favorite actors or directors or anybody that inspired you, I guess later on when you knew this is what you wanted to do?
I think that it was always, I'll say the women that I've always been really drawn to in film and television have been the ones that I felt like as a kid that I could also one day be like in some way, that it wasn't like I think Michelle Pfeiffer is incredible, but I would see her on the screen as a young kid and be like, well, I don't look like that, and I never will. It was sort of, I was very drawn to also women who were comfortable being a mess and being flawed, like Diane Keaton, or I'm a huge fan of Catherine Keener. I think that she's out of this world. Gina Rowlands. Giulietta Messina, the women who just sort of weren't concerned with vanity and were more interested in sort of peeling everything away and being a very flawed human. That was what I was most drawn to.
Right. And what about sitcoms? Did you have a favorite or?
Yeah, I mean, Tina Fey and Amy Poehler, and those are women who not only have carved their own path, but they play a fully fledged person that is not always likable and who's not always perfectly dressed. And I think that Liz Lemon had pizza on her for 70% of the episodes. But those definitely were the sitcoms that I watched. I watched Parks and Rec, and I mean Saturday Night Live too, like Kristen Wiig and Maya Rudolph, and anything in that vein. Those women are just. Oh, and what am I talking about? Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Who's the ultimate, when you watch her performance in Veep, she's a master. She's unbelievable. And Elaine on Seinfeld was one of the most unlikable people, and yet she's, yes. So those were the women that I really looked to.
All right. Okay, somebody from the audience wanted to know, what was the audition process for the new show like? How many callbacks did you have?
I went in and read for it. It's a little bit of a blur because it was all happening while I was still shooting How I Met Your Mother. So I think I went in and auditioned, and it was a pretty seamless process. Whereas I've had other ones that have gone on and on and on and on and on. I mean, once was 10 auditions. That was that was brutal. But this was pretty seamless, and then I had to read with 10 Andrews. That was the scariest part because I had to keep going back into network test after network test, and I was convinced that halfway through they were going to be like, "Oh wait, she's the problem. Oh, she's terrible. Oh yeah, no, get her out of here." Big mistake, huge mistake on our part. And Cristin, we're sorry. And so I was very, very scared of that the whole time. So I weirdly I felt like I had 10 or 12 auditions, but I really guess I only had 3, because it was the original audition, the test for the network, and the test for the studio, which is something I still don't entirely understand. And all of them are horribly uncomfortable. Everyone in the room is uncomfortable because like everyone wants you to do well and you want to do well, but it's like this. You're auditioning in someone's office, which they don't tell you. I didn't know that.
Right.
That's How I Met Your Mother didn't go that way,
And how many people are in there with you?
Like 20.
Oof.
And they're all sitting in someone's office, so they're like all on top of each other, and some are sitting on the floor, and they're like, "Go ahead, whenever you're ready." And it's an office. It's like it's a very fancy corner office, and it's so weird. It is the most uncomfortable room, but it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did well, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So last year you did Wolf of Wall Street with Martin Scorsese, legendary.
Yeah.
Just, can you tell us a little bit about working with him? What that
Oh
was
my
like?
God. I mean, like, I don't know if you heard any interview with him. Like, he's so animated and he's so incredibly kind and such a generous guy. I loved working with him. That was really a dream. I would say that I regret that I was really frightened to be there. Mm-hmm. I think like the first couple days I was there, I just was like, oh, soon they're going to discover that I'm not good. They're going to fire me. That's like a recurring theme, by the way, that I'm sure we all like know. And I was like, it's going to any second, like he's going to be looking at the video village and he's going to be like, oh. So, and I wish, I really regret that I didn't leave that at the door in some way, because another huge lesson I learned on that film, which is what I'm coming around to, is that like, you know, he sort of encourages hitting the ground running at 500%, and there's no like warming up. Mm-hmm. You just sort of do it. Mm-hmm. And you know, at that point, I had done mostly theater where you get like 4 weeks to hold hands and like sit around a table and be like, what are you feeling in this scene? Like, I don't know. Coffee break. You know, like it's different. And I wish that it was a huge learning experience. And ever since then, I sort of have tried to do that with every single take. I try and do something different, and I try to give it like as there's no rehearsal whatsoever. Even rehearsals I treat as a take. And I really learned that from him. But yeah, it was an incredible experience. I think most of it I was outside of my body. Because there's a lot of stuff I don't remember, and I feel like I should because it wasn't that long ago.
Blacked out.
So I think I kind of blacked out. Yeah.
And who have you not worked with yet that would be your ultimate?
Quentin Tarantino.
Okay.
I would love to work with him. I really love him, and I love that I saw Kill Bill when I was maybe 17, and it was like the first film in my memory where I saw a woman kicking ass and taking names in such a way that I was like frothing at the mouth, where I was like, yeah, I want to see that again. And I still, whenever it comes on TV, I stop everything and I watch it. And I would say Paul Thomas Anderson is another one. Obviously, I mean, he's so brilliant. And I don't know. And then I would love to work with. There it goes. The thought left me. I'm running on like 3 hours sleep. Just those two and nobody else. No, I would be open. I love working and I love like acting, and so I would really be open to whoever. But those two in particular really come to mind.
Well, great. Are there any other audience questions maybe that we could take, or if anybody has anything?
I'm wondering about the new show and how you've given us the timeline of the relationship.
Yeah.
So how are you going to have season 4, season 5?
Oh, so did you guys hear her? Okay. We don't know. They won't tell us. I was just talking about this earlier today. So Ben Queen, our creator, when I got this job, I kept telling people, I was like, oh, it's this really cool comedy series about this couple that you know is going to break up. And then we were at the TCA's, the Television Critics Association, something or other, where you're like on a dais answering questions. And Ben Queen answered a question with, well, they could get married, which had never crossed my mind. I thought that meant like, oh, they were done. After 8 months, they were done. But then the more I think about it, 8 months, 3 weeks, 4 days. It's also the term that would be a pregnancy, which I've also thought of. And I was like, ooh, sly. But that would also imply that we slept together on our first date, which I don't think is a bad thing. But I also don't think we've addressed it. So I don't know. And we're filming episode 8 next week, and I keep trying to figure it out, and I can't figure it out. I don't know. I would assume that like, wait, I hope this doesn't piss him off. Well, what are you gonna do? I feel like, you know, I was thinking that this season, like if we broke up at the end of the season, all it talks about is their relationship. So that means that their relationship will change. So, you know, one thing that's happening this season is that our lives are getting entwined, whatever. They're getting mixed together in a way that would be very difficult to separate. And so like season 2 could be like them having to actually like separate again. Or I'm pregnant, I'm not sure. I don't know. That's why they pay me to just like stand on a piece of tape and say lines. I'm not like in the pitching. I've tried to pitch one idea to them and it went terribly. So, but who knows?
Great, we're out of time, unfortunately.
Thank you for staying around. I'm
everybody.
sorry I was so late. It took me an hour to get here from the Lower East Side. And I was in a car. That's like Los Angeles stuff. My God, it's terrible. Yeah. Yeah.
When it rains.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming out into the rain. Thank you.